Maybe we can just quick talk about just 15 seconds. I know there's a delay. So did you fix the lava lamp? Is it better now? I think you're having trouble before when I was on your podcast.
Yeah, new bulb. So
that's it.
We're good.
All these strategies and complexities and marketing, and we're like, new light bulb. It's fine.
Yeah. How many marketing leaders does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is more than one.
How many people had to figure out that it's just a light bulb change, something from Amazon?
You know that was what was the old phone a friend from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes.
I phoned a friend and did you check the light bulb? And it's like, my first reaction was, I will stab you.
Was
that of course I did, but then no, I didn't. I didn't actually check the light bulb. So anyway,
that friend wasn't Charlie GPT, was it?
It was not. No, it was an actual friend. So the embarrassment was real.
So we're going to hopefully avoid the embarrassments. Looks like we're rolling live. So thank you for coming. But I gotta preface everybody, Mark, with the glorious magic that happens behind the scenes. So when it comes to GTM, our guest Mark has some serious night moves. This VP of marketing creates a foundation for bridging sales and marketing teams to be solid. Some say like a rock. And 5-time GTM leader, he doesn't just turn the page when learning about AI, demand gen, SaaS, cybersecurity. He became obsessed long before these industries called it cool. Now he's leading Sutra AI, fast-moving and groundbreaking AI solution, which some may even say is moving as fast as a silver bullet. Right, Mark? And if you really want to learn about Mark's passion, you should get on his podcast, GTM After Hours. At least listen, because it's a safe space for honesty, transparency, conversations, and just being all around cool about marketing. Besides, it's lonely when both of us are talking about GTM, but good thing we've got tonight. Thanks for taking time to spill all the tea, Mark. Appreciate you and allowing me to dive into the only thing that I associate Detroit with. It's Bob Seger.
I feel like I'm kind of cheating on Bob Seger after that intro, because you're just dropping hit after hit after hit.
Okay.
Here I am in a Steve Miller Band t-shirt. So
that's probably better.
I feel like I'm off brand at the moment, but yeah.
6 one-hit wonders or something, or whatever it is. And Silver Bullet took him to town. While we're staring in the background, that's the coolest thing ever. While I have zero interest behind me, what's your favorite piece of work behind you?
So I love the albums. All 3 of those albums were actually my dad's, that he bought when he was between a senior in high school and a senior in college. So cool. Love that. Usually change them out. It's something important to me. And frankly, I got really good advice before everybody went remote. So a couple years before the pandemic, that in your home office, when you're doing every demo virtually, have things behind you that you can tell a story about, that people can connect with you on, and that's something that I will typically advise my sales team to have. Just, 1 or 2 things behind you that you can tell a story about. I'm a bit of a maximalist, if you can imagine. So I've got like 300 things I can tell a story about, but minimum 2. Have a painting behind you, a record, something that you care about.
Kerry is usually doing the tea time. I figured I should maybe tell people in case they're coming in and showing up. There she is, ASMR in training, doing the smoke signals from the producer's angle, because her chest infection got infected and so did her vocal cords. So I'm here trying to do my best. Mark Bliss is here talking about all the things that I wish I knew. And we're going to figure out, maybe I'll get like a crash course in GTM in like 30 hot minutes. So this will be pretty good. Mark, you have a lot of things going on, but I want to start with something fun, if I may. So I'd like to play a word association. I'm going to hammer some terms and things that I hope you know, and then quick, don't think about it, just blurt out something that associates with this, either emotion or a response or something, the first word that comes to mind. You ready?
Sure. If the first one is Bob, the answer is Seger.
You read my mind. Okay, let's get to the second one. How about GTM?
An overall approach to make sure that your company is seen.
Okay. ABM?
Good marketing.
Cybersecurity.
Complex.
ChatGPT.
Not as good as Gemini.
I'll skip Gemini.
Shots fired. There you go.
Notebook. LLM.
Built off of Gemini, so I love it.
Perplexity.
Meh.
Mops.
Essential.
Demand gen.
Underrated.
LinkedIn.
Critical.
Facebook.
Not as critical.
Well done. Podcasts.
Essential.
Directors.
Do you say directors?
Yeah.
I mean, they're people too.
Marketing VPs.
Mostly people too. At least 20% cyborgs.
I thought you were going to say Mark, but that's fine. Sales.
Best friends.
Ooh, so you can be best friends with somebody that's a rookie that's trying to figure out how to get to leadership excellence. They're just starting out. They're having fun. They're having a great time. But even for mistakes made in transparency form, marketing leaders like Kerry like to admit that in her first year of fractional marketing leadership, managing the CEO and internal communication, that was a little bit of an issue because she got stuck on relaunching the website and then figured out that it doesn't always have to be pretty, and then nothing gets done and you just kind of cry in a corner. So are those kind of things that you help teach people when they're rookie marketing leaders to get to that director level, or is there anything particular that you try to coach people on when they're trying to succeed and kind of do better and figure it out?
Well, it's a few things. First, I think the biggest transition that you have in your career is jumping from doing every day to inspiring and enabling. And that is a very big shift. And people sometimes have a hard time letting go of the doing. And that stands in their way of having success. I mean, I know it stood in mine. My first VP of marketing role, I was so deep in the weeds that, even as I was enabling my team, I was still personally owning several different functions within marketing. And sometimes you have to do that. But what you also have to do is you have to step back and actually pay attention to the strategy. Good enough is good, so ship it. You can always learn from it. But if you're spending hours and hours debating, color schemes or 2 words on, your corporate homepage, that issue is now taking you away from actually determining what you should be doing from a strategic standpoint. So I always say step back. I also tell people that the data can lie because it all depends. It depends on the attribution model. It depends on historical data. Like, for example, I was VP at a company for the previous 2.5 years. Their MQL definition was basically, does this person look like they're alive and breathing? They're an MQL. And so if you go with that as the data, now, your MQL numbers might drop down. Your conversion rates would go up, but your historical data is going to be an issue. And so how do you normalize that? Also, if you're looking at a first or last touch model, it's always going to be flawed because you're always leaving behind and leaving out all of these important touches all along the journey. And so if you met them at a trade show 2 years ago and you're on a first touch attribution model, the trade show gets 100% of the credit. And you're not allocating anything to, the webinars that they've recently attended, the ads that they've been clicking, any of that stuff. And so I always tell people the data can lie. So you want to make sure that you're first aligning all of that data, finding where those weaknesses are, and identifying what you can fix versus what's not worth fixing. Like the historical data change, I would just put an asterisk there for previous years. It's not worth going back and refiltering all of those MQLs through whatever your new methodology is. But just really, really lean into what's going, what are the key targets going forward.
Teresa Potratz came on the podcast not too long ago last year, and she talks about the denial of people because it seems unreal unrealistic that people have perfect data. Is that what you mean, especially in stealth land when you're just starting up, to try and figure out, okay, if this is messy data or it's incorrect, you just throw an asterisk at it, move on and learn from it? Or do you try to focus on just getting it right? So
You'll spend an entire year getting it right, especially if you don't have a strong MOPS hire in place. And we can talk about hiring because that's a critical component of being a first-time marketing leader. But I think the big thing with data is just making sure that you have whatever your baseline is to compare against. You can always improve from there, but as long as you have a baseline and you're comfortable with what that baseline is, then you're good and you're golden. I would also say, work back on your model for the year. Work backwards. What is your target? And then work back with all of the, conversion rates across the funnel to be able to identify, how many MQLs and SALs you're going to need in order to hit that number. And then if you can take your CAC and align it there, now you know what your budget should be. And that's a great first exercise for a first-time marketing leader coming in, because I would bet you that not only is the goal target completely made up by somebody in a boardroom, but the method to which you're going to achieve it will absolutely change dependent upon where you're putting emphasis on improving conversion rate. So if you're really trying to, improve your conversion rate, maybe late funnel, SQL proposal stage, then you're not going to need as many deals in the funnel. And so that's where something like an ABM play comes in versus your traditional inbound.
So where would you draw the line and push back on unrealistic KPIs? Is there a spot as a leader in marketing? Would you push back on the directors or just go, okay, guys, we have Series A or a VC happening and we need to please them. Let's just make it happen.
I mean, at some point you have to pick your battles. The old adage of, it's not a hill to die on is very, very critical and relevant for marketing leaders, particularly in B2B SaaS, because things move so quick that if I can just spin off a report and it stops me from having a back and forth, I'm going to do it every time.
Gotcha.
But I don't know if historically it's not a hill to die on was because they were battling, and then every time that they would retreat, they'd retreat to the next hill to get higher ground, and so they keep going backwards until finally there's the last hill before the village with all of their families in it. And so that's the hill to die on. Everything else, you can strategically give it up and it doesn't affect you.
I think that's how I'd look at Everest. Just look at it, go up halfway, and then start going backwards and go, not today, not today. So that's what it makes me think of. It's with ABM, you want to hit accounts, you want to be specific. I don't know if your white glove. I just want to go and give a steak dinner to one person to feed the army, if you will, or customer base, or if you're going to a lot at once or somewhere in between. And with that strategy, are you focused on demo requests, contact forms, measuring downloads, referrals, clicks, all that stuff? Or is there something specific that you try and hone in on so you don't go bananas?
Well, with ABM, first I want to say ABM is not demand gen innate. Like, it's not your traditional inbound. I think where people fail with ABM is they try to treat it like this top of funnel channel.
Yeah.
And it's just not like that. That is not what it's designed for. You want to look at, percentage of engaged accounts, and you want to look at pipeline velocity, so your speed to close, and then of course closed won revenue. And so with ABM, if we're looking at a much smaller amount of accounts, and most of the time these accounts are folks that have already engaged with you in some way. And so my favorite types of campaigns are things like Wake the Dead ABM campaigns. That's the one I always recommend that people do first, because these people have already seen what you do. They've already seen demos. They've already told you no. or ghosted you or just fell off the face of the earth. And so one of the coolest ways that you can prove out yourself as a leader as well as your ABM program is closing deals that couldn't be closed before. And so it's a really, really great start to any ABM program, doing a Wake the Dead campaign, because the reality is half of those deals could be because there were, a couple of bad, or poorly trained reps. You could have had an issue where there was a feature that wasn't present in the software back then, but it is today. And so there's a lot of good reason to do it. And so I always tell people to start there, but equally pick a trade show that you're coming to and do an ABM campaign around ideal client profile accounts that are going to be at that trade show. I'm sure you can come up with like 20 or so target accounts at minimum. And then how many meetings do you book? And then you can walk into the trade show already knowing that you're going to meet with, 5 to 10 of your, ideal client profile accounts. That trade show is already going to be a success. You've already set it up for success. And so I tend to think of ABM more as, pipeline velocity and engaged accounts than I do top of funnel net new.
So you already grab stuff, contacts from CRM or data you've procured from somewhere, and you have warm leads and almost middle of the funnel stuff going on. From an outsider, that's kind of how I see it. Is that close?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's kind of letting go that pure top of funnel until you're ready. That is a great ABM play. Going with a targeted list of 100 accounts who's never heard of you but are in your ICP. Absolutely do that. But to build up to that, do the other ones first. Have pipeline, different individual pipeline campaigns. So like top of funnel, mid funnel, late funnel. Each of those have different ads, different pieces of content tied into them. And it really, truly helps you to prove out the success of the program before you're just straight up, here's a brand new account, I'm going to go after it. Because that's what most people do. They buy the $100,000 ABM platform, and then they drop another 100 to 200,000 into the ads and direct mail and all the accessories. And they go after a bunch of brand new targeted accounts that are on the salesperson's wish list. You're just setting yourself up for failure. You haven't proven out the program at that point. And so, that is the hardest ABM play to run. So why start there?
So is there a particular format of campaigns that you do like to utilize when you're targeting the warmer clients, the people? Maybe it's Wake the Dead, maybe it's already people in there, they've tried your stuff, they're like, maybe. Do you try to take a campaign that shocks people, surprises them, and just captures their emotion, or do you just go straight to the facts? Here's who we are, like it or love it?
So I love big, innovative, creative campaigns. In a previous company, we did away with all the traditional like trade show swag and put a bunch of that budget into doing like a Comic-Con style autograph signing experience. And we were giving away things from a local comic book shop.
Cool.
It really fit our ICP. It gained a lot of attention, and it was great. A really great CTA for all of our ABM accounts, because if they took the demo and they were qualified, we'd send them out either a Marvel or a DC pack. And that was pretty fun. But I think ABM isn't as much about the creativity as it is about knowing the folks that you were talking to, understanding those prospects. And AI really makes that so much easier nowadays. You could take the transcript from the 3 calls that you've had with them, pop that into a trained model around your ICP, have it evaluate those transcripts for opportunities for custom content, and then it can feed you 2 or 3 topics on custom content that you should generate for that account. And then you could do one of my favorite plays, which is a fakenar, where you record the webinar, but it's literally just you and your subject matter expert. walking through a particular topic, and then the sales rep gets to be like, oh, hey, Mr. Prospect, yeah, we actually did a webinar on this topic not too long ago. I know you mentioned it in our last conversation. I wanted to pass this along to you. Yeah, it never existed before. And so the biggest benefit to that is, like, it's very custom. You're answering the specific questions that your prospect is, but you're doing it in a generalized way that won't make them feel like very awkward, that eyes are on them the whole time.
You make it seem like it's an element of surprise. Be like, here, we have all this great content. I thought about you. And then everybody feels like it's natural, whether they care or not. Doesn't matter. At least you're trying something different and something a little more organic, which is pretty cool.
Well, and if it resonates, there's no reason why that can't be then spun up as an on-demand webinar on your portal. Like, so it makes it really easy, if you start in that one-to-one approach, to turn it into something that's more one to few or one to many.
Email list, whatever, you can chop it up however you want. So totally cool. Do you prefer more of an outbound sort of campaign, sort of marketing play, the ABM, GTM, or you prefer to try and grab people inbound? Or are you going to hit me with the ultimate, it depends?
I mean, I have to hit you with the it depends, but the way that I have traditionally structured that is, if the average deal size is under 50,000, an inbound model fits best. If the average deal size is over that, particularly if it's 150 to 200, it has to be an outbound model.
And Kerry's asking to ask questions because she's asking all of them currently, and we're kind of diving into it, which is pretty good. You mentioned Gemini, you mentioned AI, and that really helps. Is it still accurate enough to get the data you need, or do you just want a starting point to kind of get an idea to take, like, I don't know, 60, 70% of the research out of your time and your day to just start hitting the ground running?
Well, I think it's first and foremost understanding what AI is and is not. So what AI is going to be great for research, and it is great for that starting point. It's great for understanding and analysis. It's great for taking a bunch of disparate data sources and summarizing them and giving you goals and targets. But what it's not going to create something that wasn't already there before. And so what I tend to tell people now is, it used to be, for better or for worse, people would hire based on experience. Experience is the main threshold. If I wanted somebody who's going to run Facebook ads, because obviously that's the most important thing to ever do, then I'm going to hire somebody with that specific experience.
Right.
Now I tell people I'm much more interested in their base level of creativity than anything else, because that's the thing that AI can't give me. And so there's all sorts of tools that exist in the world that are going to be able to, run ads, do SEO, even just frankly, get you up to speed on a particular tool or, campaign methodology. But that raw, I have an idea that nobody else has had, it can't be done by AI. And so I think building around that, where you're able to say, okay, so these are the things that AI is going to do, and these are the things that we're going to do as a team. And if you do your brainstorming and your creative workshops, and you really can align on your brand and your messaging and everything to do with your personas and your key messaging guide, like all of that can then be fed into AI to give you a really strong output.
Yeah.
But you have to have some creativity at the top to be able to, I guess, understand what questions to ask.
Sure.
I also think people, where they fail all the time with AI is in the prompt, because they expect it to be like this magic fortune teller. Like, I know you've ever seen the movie Big with Tom Hanks. Problematic nowadays. That movie does not hold up to modern standards. But the entire premise, he walks up to this fortune teller thing, and it turns him into an adult. It turns a kid into an adult. And so I think people believe that AI is that magical fortune teller, and it'll pump out something that's a fully formed Tom Hanks. And you're not going to get a fully formed Tom Hanks unless you work on your prompt. It's not magic. You have to have very detailed prompts. I once spent like 2.5 hours on one prompt to get the output that I wanted.
But it'll save you 20, 30, 100 hours. Totally worth it.
Exactly. I don't have to do it from scratch, but people aren't willing to, how do I put it? I will say most folks that I have talked to that are failing leveraging AI, it's because they're not taking enough time with the prompts. They're not learning. There's so much education out there on how to write great prompts.
Yeah.
And even just understanding how the AI works. Most people don't know that it's literally just guessing the next word. I mean, that's the entire the entire baseline of AI is it's just guessing. And so what direction you can give it to make it guess better, it's all in the prompt.
So now that you have training for basics, you have your fake webinars, as you call them, for maybe in-house L&D, and then you have how to prompt, brought to you by Mark, the expert. You have creative, and you need humans. Would you rather hire me, who's like a zany, quirky, maple syrup dripping, whatever, creative, or would you hire somebody with experience like Kerry, who has experience and ideas based on marketing?
So when I say creative, I'm not necessarily saying in the persona and somebody's personal brand. Like I have white glasses, I must be creative. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I actually do this rapid fire round in every interview where I say, okay, it's time for us to go into the lightning round. Usually I do this after we've gone through their background, some previous job history, while they're still super nervous. And so it's part icebreaker, but I'm asking questions like, if you had a theme song every time that you joined a Zoom meeting, what would it be? And I don't care what the answer is. I mean, if it's a song I haven't heard in a while, I might put it on. But what I want to see is how quickly somebody can think about the answer. And so I want to see, how their wheels turn, what they're defaulting to in some of these answers, and I'm really just looking for how creative are they, how quickly they can respond to me. And so, yeah, I'll do things like that where I'm really just ascertaining, are they creative, not, oh, they look like they're creative because they have cool glasses.
Instead of what type of animal would you be in this particular situation if you didn't have 3 legs? You want the goods, the good stuff. Can they react on their feet on the fly, and can they prove themselves without just going through a checklist on the resume?
Well,
Totally.
yeah, and those questions are much easier. Like at first, when I started doing this, I did it with questions that somebody proficient and had experience in whatever that role was
Mm.
would know. But I found that it didn't really give me the answers that I was looking for, because people were so hung up on trying to tell their story and look good doing it, that I wasn't really gaining how quickly they thought on their feet. And so I changed all the questioning to, more broad things like, superpowers and, the theme songs and all that kind of fun stuff. So that way I could really just get to the heart of, do they think well on their feet? Do they come up with things when there's a little bit of pressure? And that's really, really been a game changer.
I had a whole bunch of questions to line up, but Laura Kenner's live. She's in the comments and she's changing up things for me. So she just kind of wondering the alignment for sales and marketing. This is like your bread and butter, your dream question to figure out how to get them to talk together. Is it shared goals and responsibility? Are we talking about deals won? Is there a RevOps model that they kumbaya over? Do we have sales enablement trajectory to marketing, or do we have something else that could really, it sounds like she's in interview question and she needs your help. You got any ideas?
Okay. So, and hi,
That's a
Laura,
lot.
what's up?
Tons.
I think for me, it's this intersection of compensation and compliments and aligning those two things. Oftentimes, marketing is not compensated when a deal closes like what their sales counterparts are. And so if you can do that, even if it's in like a quarterly bonus or variable comp type of model, but if you can structure it to where when something closes, marketers make some extra cash, that alignment on closed one as the key metric really, really sparks. And then the other thing is the compliments, because marketing is traditionally kind of left in the shadows while sales is celebrating a closed one deal, and you have to pull them out of the shadows. You have to have them be a part of that celebration. You need shout outs from the C-suite specific to marketers, and you don't often have that. And so I think if you could do those two things, it makes it much easier for sales and marketing alignment, because everybody's has the same goal and same target, and everybody feels like they're a part of the same team. I think where the animosity grows is when, marketers, for example, see, the sales team as, getting all the glory, and then that can build up some resentment. And I think the flip side is also true. And this is why compensation is so important. You cannot have the sales team feeling like marketers only care about leads. And so if you can align those two things, the majority of the time you're going to have a really great relationship between sales and marketing.
Do you think it's a big bonus that marketers should actually try at least, I don't know, a week in the life in sales just to get a feel? Or do you prefer maybe just do a sales job if you have yet not jumped into marketing in a leadership role like you did before? You were in sales. Did it help?
I was, and it does. I like the prospect of having a marketer be an SDR for a couple of hours every couple of quarters, depending on your team structure. That really helps, especially if it's the folks who are creating the content. So if your email marketing manager is an SDR for the day, you are going to see some big dividends in how they message after they've had to send those emails out and get the replies. So that's definitely beneficial, but it all depends on your team. Like I wouldn't have somebody who is more of an introvert that would never do that. I'm not going to force them on the phone.
Sure. That would be bad. Yeah.
That would be terrible for morale, and we'd end up with some really terrible phone calls and emails coming out. But for those that can, I think it is really valuable. I think there's a level of empathy that needs to exist, and it's the same reason why when a sales team member has an idea for a piece of content or something, I always ask them to give me their first draft, even if it's like a back of the napkin drawing or something. Like I've had people just take a picture of a whiteboard that they wrote some notes on, but some sort of a first draft, because I also want them to understand how difficult what they're asking for is. Like if you want a blog, it's not just as simple as, pop it into Chat GPT and then an hour later you have a blog. There's a lot that goes into these things, and I want them to start thinking about that, so that way they, the sales team also has empathy for how hard of a job marketing has.
Where's the balance between AI automation, automated emails, and the exact human, fully scripted email that goes out with their, two fingers or whatever it may be? Is there a balance somewhere? Do you try to lean on either side of the scale, or do you just try to avoid it and say, just write them?
The colder the prospect is, the more personalization you need to do. I think as you progress in the sales cycle, you've effectively earned the right to use a little bit of additional automation. Plus, the AI can be trained with all the conversations that you've had with that prospect, and so it's going to put out it's a better output. That email copy is going to be better. But if it's cold and you've never talked to them before, use AI to inform what the email should say, but it's not going to put out anything that you'd want to copy and paste and send out.
Do you feel that there's a major shift? Modern buyers engaging, trying to figure them out, and do you think maybe B2B teams just haven't quite figured that out? They're not adapting fast enough, or do you think everything's fine?
Well, everything is never fine. I feel like the world of B2B marketing is like that. Everything's fine while everything's burning around them meme. I feel like that's traditionally what it always is. But I think that because of AI's real sudden emergence just into the day to day and status quo, mixed with at the same time a reduction in workforce and team sizes all across. I think those two things are making teams have to rely on AI, but they've never taken the time to learn and train and how to effectively use it. So it's just creating a lot of stress all the way around. You have senior leadership that thinks it's really easy and you can just pop it into ChatGPT and all your work's done for you. So of course I can assign 3 people's worth of work to one person
Sure.
because of course they have AI, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a disconnect there, and I also think that there's a disconnect with the traditional folks on the ground in marketing, also thinking maybe AI is a little easier than it actually is.
What's your favorite outbound channel? And maybe hit me with, as a follow-up question, your favorite opening line. Like the guys on Instagram try to say, "Would you hate me if?" Do you pull that stuff, or do you try to just be cool and hit the ground running?
So I would say LinkedIn in mail is
Oh,
my absolute favorite,
really?
and I think you go with a podcasting play. Um,
Oh,
Everyone wants to be a thought leader. Everyone.
including
Uh,
me? Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so it's so much easier for me to message someone asking them to be a guest on our podcast. I saw you posted such and such. It was you see this comment, whatever it is, but you direct it to something that prospect has said or written or
Yeah.
something in their background. And you're like, I think you'd be a great guest. These are the topics that we've recently talked about. I think it aligns with your background. Would love to have you on the show. And the majority of the time, you're getting a reply back. Even if they're like, I don't really want to do a podcast, they're still replying back to you and you've got an in. And then if they do the podcast, you got some law of reciprocity working for you because those are folks that are going to want to give you the opportunity to pitch them because you've already done them a favor by amplifying their voice as a thought leader.
Mm.
But what you're also doing because you're tagging them in any of the post show materials, now you're engaging with their entire network.
Ooh.
So this post goes out, you're tagging me in it, all of my network Kerry's benefiting from because everybody's seeing that. And I see in the B2B world it's the same thing. The podcast play is probably the strongest ABM play that's out there today,
Interesting.
until marketers finish ruining it.
Why do you
Because every time something good happens and it's really easy for a little while, marketers find a way to ruin it. And I'm guessing that's going to be from really, really terrible AI in-mail messages.
Oh, it's coming, if not
It
already.
is
Yeah.
definitely coming. But in the meantime, run this play. It's so simple and it works way more than it should.
Can you take me from podcast to closing a deal? Like, where is the how can we get the inner confidence, the experience that Mark has to kind of go through when's the right time to kind of follow up, to pitch them, to sell them, to kind of have that take them up on that reciprocity?
Well, the first initial podcast pitch that you're going to do top of the funnel. And so that is in that MQL stage.
Hmm.
You know that they're a good fit and you're empowering the SDR team to go and reach out. Bonus points if it's coming from whomever is the host of your podcast.
Ah,
Absolute bonus points there. But what you can do from there is once that is finished, you're going to sign off with we'll let you know this is going to post in a week or two. I would never let it go beyond a couple of weeks.
right.
Whatever you have to do, post it as quick as possible because you don't want them to forget that they talked to you.
Yeah.
Post it. You send the email and you tag them in everything. And then once that goes out, you wait about, I don't know, 6 hours. Say, hey, the reception we've been getting is really good. You were such an excellent guest. Can we get coffee and continue the conversation?
Do you think
Move them right into there.
would they see through that by chance, or would they care? Be like, yeah, you're nice. They don't even check.
You've already built a relationship. You just spent
It's
an
matter.
hour with them on a podcast.
Yeah.
So that's a huge benefit. And then you've also now gained a ton of great data about their business, how they look at the world, how that specific person thinks.
Mm.
And so all of that could be fed into our good friend AI.
Yeah.
To help surface additional topics, additional things that you can, bring them into the fold on. Maybe there's an element of your product that when AI reads a transcript, it's like they would really benefit from such and such feature.
Mm.
And then your follow-up when you have that coffee meeting could be, as you were talking about it, all I kept thinking about is how much you'd benefit from this feature. Can I show you this really quick?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, sure. That's
So
fine.
good, so helpful. And again, incredibly underutilized right now. For as much attention is paid to LinkedIn and posting and your personal brand and all of that, there's still this huge opening for this podcast play, because people, as much as there are a million podcasts out there nowadays, most people will only be asked to guest on one, maybe two in an entire year. And
That's
these are
it.
C-suite executives. They are not getting pitched for podcasts as much as you probably think that they are.
Mm. Really? So, so there's never a correlation between direct ROI in podcasts and what you said, the magic behind getting in the door. People just, are they sleeping? Are they behind a rock? Do they not get out much? Do they not listen to your podcast and your advice and heed this like they should get out there tomorrow? Or do you think there's a disconnect somewhere that people are like, man, I don't need this. I'm just going to go on the phone and, say stuff.
Well, I think the disconnect is it takes a lot of work to put a podcast together.
Fair.
That's the disconnect.
You would know.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes work. It takes a host, preferably one who still has their voice. Kerry.
Yeah. If not, you need an army of people as backups.
You need an army of people in the back, and
Yeah.
and all of the editing. You're going to want this on video, so you can put out a video clip on social.
Sure.
All of these things take time and resources. They don't cost a lot of money, but they cost a lot of time. And so people will traditionally lean towards things that are easier plays, like your traditional inbound. Like we're gonna run a sponsored post on LinkedIn for a webinar that's coming up, and that's going to be the play because it takes no time and no effort to do. All the SDRs are sending out the same message about the webinar coming up. It's not as personalized. It doesn't take as much time. But if you run this podcast play, it's all personalized. It takes a lot of time. And even if you have good tools, like you're using a StreamYard or a Riverside, like if you've got these good tools in place, it still takes a ton of time and effort and a lot of skills to be able to do.
So you mean you can't just get boomers on TikTok talking in Gen Z lingo and hoping that you get a million hits and lots of phone calls? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, I wouldn't say it wouldn't get a million hits on TikTok, but
convert, right?
You have no idea what's ever going to hit. And this idea that we should play and strive to go viral is the most ridiculous thing. Like some C-suite person is going to see this and they're like, well, but why can't we? It's so easy. All these other brands are doing it. And I don't have any desire to go viral. I don't care if only 5 people download that podcast episode. If one of those 5 is my target buyer, I'm good.
That's still 20% conversion. Like salespeople dream of that stuff.
Yeah. So don't judge based on metrics that don't matter to your business. Judge things based on revenue and pipeline velocity. Like does the deal move quicker? Because in my experience, it does. it will move quicker if you've done a podcast with that prospect.
Can I put you on the spot and ask about GTM After Hours and ask if you've got some deals last year or any time through your podcast?
I did, yeah, yeah. While I was freelancing, was able to pick up a couple, and a couple of my guests were actually hired in part from their appearance on the podcast. Sharing that the hiring manager asked, "Oh, well, what do you think of fill in the blank marketing function?" And then they're able to say, "Oh, I just did a podcast episode on that. Actually, let me send that to you."
That's very cool.
Which is very important. And honestly, that's why I came up with the GTM After Hours podcast idea in the first place. Is I feel like we all are so good at telling the story of our brand, whether you're in sales, marketing, CS. We're really, really good at pitching whatever company we're working for, but we are just absolutely terrible about sharing our knowledge. And this is particularly important for folks that are not, the directors and above. They often don't get asked to ever share their experience on a podcast. And they're the ones that we really should be listening to, because they're the ones who are actually doing the work.
The middle managers, right? They're figuring out all the campaigns and what works and what doesn't, rallying their troops, and they just want to talk to people because they want a promotion. Absolutely.
Exactly. So highlighting their stories is a big part of it, and it also builds up quite the awesome transcript log for me to train my AI.
I think you've had a lot of practice with AI models, especially when you went from fractional to W2 with Sutra. You also just got a stealth in February. So you must be going through a lot of scrutinization or rapid fire questions or things like that. Has it been everything you expected? Is this just kind of for you sleeping with one eye closed, or do you do this stuff in your sleep? Or how does this kind of work out for people who aren't finding a W2 job and just want to spin up a startup, so to speak?
So how do I put this? The interesting thing about Sutra is this is now my second AI company.
Yeah.
And it's the same founder. And so the same founder who hired me as marketing hire number one at a previous startup
That's through the series
hired
B,
me
right?
as
Yeah.
marketing hire number one at this one, both AI companies. And so that's part of what has been, making me very introspective lately, of like how far I've come and the things that I failed on as a first time VP, because I'm now, it's like I'm working for the same founder, but with my current skill set versus my older skill set. And it's not even just a talent thing. I think it's just understanding what's actually important, what is worth stressing over, and what is not. All of those things really, really come into play. And so I think labeling us coming out of stealth was so critical, because I needed to tell the market that like we're here and we exist,
Yeah.
but it also buys you an amazing level of empathy and forgiveness, because you're not going to have your stuff together. And I don't know, is this a podcast I can curse on? Because I would have used a different word there, but okay.
You have the glasses that proves that you can do whatever you please.
Well, I don't know. You always have to ask, but I think the idea behind coming out of stealth is it frames things in the way that it's like you're new, you're up and coming, and so you don't have to have all of your shit together. And so I love that, and I love the idea of even reframing. If your company is not coming out of stealth, have a coming out of stealth quarter, a foundational sprint to do all the things that you decided that you weren't going to do earlier on. I'm looking at all of my demand gen friends who put no stock at all into any of their product marketing. And it's better to do it early than to do it late. But if you can do a level set with your internal leadership team that we're going to treat this like we're brand new for this quarter and we're going to go on a sprint, hugely beneficial. I would say the same thing for MOPS and your data and systems, because there's not a single person listening to this that has perfect data
Mm.
and is getting everything that they can out of their tech stack.
What's the biggest failure that you told your second time manager, boss, CEO that you learned from and that you're going to do better?
So for me, it was always like, I'm a very impatient person.
Mm.
So I have an insane bias towards action. I
Mm.
don't want to discuss anything. I just
Just
want to
do
put
it.
it on. I want to put it out in the world, run an ad on it for with a couple $100 to my ICP. And if it
Mm.
resonates, great. Put more thought and effort into it. If it doesn't, didn't lose any time.
Okay.
But I think that bias towards action isn't really relevant until you've built the foundation. And
Mm.
so like many other folks who have a demand gen background that get into that VP slot, you have this bias towards I'm going to run ads, I'm going to spin these things up, like bunch of new content, bunch of new campaigns, full ABM program and tech stack, and you haven't really identified who's even buying your software yet.
Ouch.
And so like you might have a one pager on your brand and a few battle cards or something, but you're basically just rolling with gut. And I won't put all of that blame on the feet of that marketing leader, because it's also coming top down, because you're getting weekly requests for how many more leads, how much more pipeline, what are you doing to drive pipeline. And so, pushing back early on and setting the expectation that the work that we do now will benefit us in pipeline is so important. And it's just frankly a discussion that a lot of folks don't have. I will say the reverse is also true. The folks who came from the product marketing side and found themselves in that seat, they need to spend a lot less time in meetings talking about minor changes, and they need
Thank
to
you.
just run something in an ad. So it works both ways. And I think the lessons that you learn the more that you do it, is you realize where your weaknesses are from depending on where you came up as a marketer to be able to get into that chair. And
Mm.
understanding what that weakness is and really diving into it. And the good news for me is, not being a product marketer by trade originally. I come up from the sales side. I was a demand gen marketer through and through. The benefit of having AI, like I had an entire conversation with my ICP on my phone, train a model, and I can have a voice chat with them, and it's really really powerful, to be able to do that type of thing, to be able to get to the head of your buyers.
Mm.
And you can do that now in a way that you never could before. And so that helps a ton. And I would say the reverse is also true for the product marketing centered leaders. Uh, y'all can take advantage of all this great technology that's going to do a lot of that, heavy lifting for you. If you're just like, okay, well, we need to run this as a test. There are so many tools out there that are just going to run that ad for you without you having to do much, if any, work. I mean, you don't even have to design the damn thing now.
Yeah.
AI can take care of that for you.
And it's the modern version of talking at a mirror, only you get a sense of an actual real person on the other side, which is kind of nice. I always have a bias for action for joy. You're not only a marketer, you're not only born in the demand gen era, and you're not only a Steve Miller Band fan. Anything in particular you want to share that brings you joy? Say, Mark.
So as weird as it is, because I'm a tech marketer, I'm absolutely obsessed with all things AI and technology,
Mm.
but I love to listen to old 8-track tapes. I restore them. I love listening to them. I find I find it as a nice stress relief,
Mm.
and a balance from the
Polar opposite.
chaos of modern world and technology to just throw in a 1970s 8-track. And the cool thing about 8-tracks, they will play on repeat until either it breaks or you take it out. And so I don't have to ever worry about my decision fatigue ever. I just put in an 8-track. And so I always tell people, find what your 8-track is. Like, what is that thing that's
Mm.
going to center you and get you to calm down at the end of a day, because we are so overworked nowadays. Team sizes. I think I saw a study that they're down like 40% from their pandemic era peaks. And so you're doing more with less. You have less budget. You have less team. Somehow it does not mean you have less stress. Shocking. And so find that thing, something that's going to balance you, that is kind of the yin to your yang, whatever that is. And do that. If you're a go kind of person, maybe meditation is the vibe. After your 17 cups of coffee in the day, maybe you need to have some meditation. If it's the reverse, if you're a chill person during the day and you're very introspective, maybe you need to take up kickboxing or something.
Or call Mark, how you can be biased to action and go crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Find something that balances an area of your personality that work isn't balancing. If you can do that, you're going to be a lot less stressed and you're going to do a lot better work. In fact, some of my best creative work happens at night after I've thrown on an 8-track or two, usually something like Bat Out of Hell, or Hotel California, something like that. I'll throw on, it gets me in a chill mood, and then I'll have an idea or something that comes to mind. And some of my best work has been done after that.
It's semisonic closing time that always does it for me. I don't know why. It's just it's just that cool. We're going home. We had a good time. It's all good. And then it's all good for Mark, because now Kerry and I got to talk about the strategy of how to podcast 101 and get people in the seat and get them going. And maybe we can datafy it and get spreadsheets going. You'll be excited. Who knows? It'll be a nice time. Hope you had a nice time. Oh, she talks. Woo! She came out for 3 words, folks. This is great. Chest infection. This is good. You sound great. And AI will help you sound better. It's fun until you feel better. All right, Mark. This has been great. Thank you for making time at happy hour before you have to feed your family and spill some tea. We'll have some clips as Kerry likes, and maybe we'll be able to, I don't know, meet up at a con about podcasts in the future. But really appreciate this. Thank you.
Sounds like fun. Thank you both for having me.
You bet.
Thank you so much.